Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. Bringing in Zach Lavine to replace Jimmy Butler will be a good deal for the Warriors? This trade involving Butler is as straightforward as it gets. Golden State receives a player who is worse than Butler, but still valuable, Lavine. Sacramento receives a symbolic second-round draft pick, but in reality, it only accelerates its rebuilding process by trading a healthy player for an injured one, thus helping the Kings to lose on purpose. Butler almost certainly wouldn't play a game for the Kings, being traded or having his contract terminated in the future. Saric is there only to help make the financial deal viable. Butler and Lavine become free agents in 2027, so there are no long-term financial problems for either side. In this NBA mock trade, the Golden State Warriors acquire Zach Lavine from the Sacramento Kings. Zach Lavine continues to be one of the more fascinating names to watch as the NBA trade deadline approaches. While his scoring punch and offensive upside are undeniable, his hefty contract makes any potential deal tricky, especially for a team like the Sacramento Kings, which would need to remain mindful of long-term financial flexibility. Moving a player with that kind of salary often shrinks the market, but it only takes one motivated contender to shift the conversation. If a playoff-level team suddenly needs an offensive spark due to an injury to a star, think of a team like the Warriors. The idea of taking on Lavine becomes far more realistic. With that in mind, let's take a look at what a potential trade package between these sides could look like. Golden State Warriors, Sacramento Kings NBA mock trade details and fantasy basketball impact. Golden State Warriors acquire Zach Lavine, Dario Saric. Sacramento Kings acquire Jimmy Butler, 2030 second-round pick. With Jimmy Butler out for the season, Zach Lavine has the opportunity to step into Butler's role while maintaining his current production of 19.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.4 assists per game in 32.5 minutes. Prior to Butler's injury, he averaged 20 points, 4.9 assists, and 3.7 rebounds in 31.1 minutes, suggesting Lavine could realistically fill a similar role. Meanwhile, Dario Saric is likely to remain an end-of-the-bench option, as he is averaging just 8.2 minutes and 1 point per game and provides no fantasy basketball value. Why the Warriors make the trade? The Warriors make this trade to help contend following Jimmy Butler's injury. Butler was a key piece for Golden State before tearing his ACL, and the team is now looking to squeeze another championship run out of its core of Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. Currently sitting at 25-21 and 8th in the Western Conference, the Warriors could use Zach Lavine's scoring punch to boost them back into contender status, with future Hall of Famer Steph Curry leading the charge. Trading for Trey Murphy III won't solve all of the Warriors' problems. The Golden State Warriors might need to pry Trey Murphy III from the hands of the New Orleans Pelicans, who don't seem particularly interested in dealing the 25-year-old on the first year of a 4-year, $112 million contract. If that changes over the next 2 weeks, and the Dubs can acquire the sharpshooting Murphy, they probably shouldn't expect him to solve all the team's woes. Replacing Jimmy Butler with Trey Murphy is about as good a job of pivoting as a team can do, but the Warriors are probably 2 difference makers away from having a shouting chance in the Western Conference. As painful as it is to admit, without a mega blockbuster, or another Murphy-sized deal, the Warriors remain a tier below the big guns in the West. Murphy would be a heck of a difference maker, though. His scoring ability would immediately make him the 3rd most important Warrior behind Steph and Draymond. So, if Murphy himself doesn't propel this team to the heights that fans hoped for, him having 3 more full years on his contract solves the Warriors' biggest issue going forward, a lack of young, cornerstone talent. In other words, a trade for Murphy would be a massive move for the Warriors, eventually. Trey Murphy III would be a long-term solution for Warriors. Any trade for Murphy III, which the Warriors should do everything in their power to do, will be done with the future in mind, not just the 2025-26 season, which now has a dark cloud hanging over it after Butler's injury. Jimmy provided high-level playmaking that Murphy doesn't, and that's hard to replicate, especially for an offensive system so reliant on ball movement. Of course, he would be good in the interim, too. But the Warriors are going up against the defending champion OKC Thunder and the upstart San Antonio Spurs in the West, not to mention the Nuggets and Rockets. With what we've seen from this team post-Jimmy injury, losses to Toronto and Dallas, one good scorer, even one as exciting as Trey Murphy, isn't getting this team into that echelon. This isn't to dissuade the Warriors from pursuing the best wing player on the market, if he's even on the market. But Warriors fans also shouldn't hinge the hopes of a championship in 2025-26 on Trey Murphy III. And if the Pelicans are serious about their uninterest in moving him, it might not matter anyway. Uncertainty grows around Stephen Curry and Steve Kerr as Warriors' future comes into question. Steve Kerr is not having a particularly merry time with the Golden State Warriors at the moment. As the team is dealing with significant inconsistencies on the court, things off it have been quite rocky, too. As Jonathan Kuminga's situation worsens, it might be time for the Warriors to undergo a major overhaul. Currently, Steve Kerr is in his final year of contract as the Warriors' head coach. According to The Ringer's Logan Murdoch, Kerr will not renew his contract. And now, Sam Amick, too, gave a fresh update about Kerr's future with the Warriors. Amick pointed out that Steph Curry might not be okay with Kerr coming back for the next season. He also stated that most of the Warriors' coaching staff are already planning their next stop. Warriors assistant coaches were quietly planning for their next stop in anticipation of Steve not being back, said Amick. On the contrary, back in September last year, when asked about his future, Kerr seemed confident that he would renew his contract. Meanwhile, as uncertainties build around the Warriors' head coach, critics recently slammed Kerr for his handling of the Kuminga situation. DeMarcus Cousins criticizes Steve Kerr following Jonathan Kuminga's situation. Kuminga has been getting significantly low game time of late. Despite his strong productivity on the court, Kerr has made it clear that Kuminga will not be a regular in his rotation. And this is what did not sit well with Cousins. Lashing out at Kerr, Cousins said, "Everything about this situation is wrong, bad, and unprofessional. Steve is continuing to get more weird by the day. Something has to be done." Thus, with things looking pretty murky, fans would have to wait to find out what happens next. Warriors predicted to make insane trade for Bucks frustrated $175 million two-time MVP. Kirby Liamane images. The Golden State Warriors have a chance to make a trade that would instantly alter the Western Conference landscape. If the Dubs are bold enough, they could execute Josh Cornelison's insane trade idea and acquire a frustrated Milwaukee Bucks two-time MVP. The one player more frequently linked to the Warriors in trade rumors than Anthony Davis is probably Giannis Antetokounmpo, Cornelison wrote Thursday. Curry and Giannis are friendly and would make a great on-court fit, and the Dubs are always hunting for the biggest stars. It would take Antetokounmpo applying pressure on the Milwaukee Bucks to trade him, but once he hits the market, the Warriors could shoot their shot. A rebuilding Bucks team may not mind taking on Butler's salary for next season, and the fact that Butler and Antetokounmpo make the same exact amount down to the penny makes the deal extremely clean. Butler, for firsts, and a swap for Giannis Antetokounmpo. For clarity, Cornelison's trade proposal would send Butler, for first-round picks, and one first-round pick swap to the Warriors for Antetokounmpo. Landing Antetokounmpo would significantly change the vibe around the Warriors organization. Losing Butler to a season-ending injury was a nightmare scenario for the Dubs. However, Antetokounmpo is a significant enough game-changer on both ends to help the seven-time NBA champions make a valiant championship push during the second half of the season. Antetokounmpo, who recently called out the Bucks after an embarrassing outing against the Oklahoma City Thunder, is averaging 28.2 points, 9.9 rebounds, 5.6 assists, and 0.8 blocks with Milwaukee this season. If the Bucks fail to convince their star forward that it would be in his best interest to remain with the franchise for the foreseeable future, change could be on the horizon. Warriors could bring back Andrew Wiggins in potential trade with Heat. The Warriors are expected to consider trading Jonathan Kuminga for Andrew Wiggins as the franchise considers major roster changes. In the wake of Jimmy Butler's injury, they are on the market for a new swingman, and one familiar name has resurfaced in the latest trade talks: Andrew Wiggins. In a new report by NBA insider Mark Stein, Wiggins was identified as a name the Warriors could consider ahead of February's deadline. Wiggins was traded from the Warriors to the Heat last February as part of the blockbuster Jimmy Butler trade, and he's played a steady role ever since with averages of 16.8 points, 4.7 rebounds, 2.9 assists, 1.2 steals, and 1.0 blocks per game on 47.1% shooting and 39.8% shooting from three. He played for 6 years in Golden State, earning a major role under head coach Steve Kerr. In 307 games for the franchise, he averaged 16.7 points, 4.7 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 0.9 steals, and 0.8 blocks per game on 46.4% shooting and 38.1% shooting from three. He gave the Dubs a solid two-way presence on the wing and played a major role in their 2022 title run. He's been solid for the Heat so far this season, but they are prioritizing a younger timeline now with players like Bam Adebayo, Jamie Jaquez Jr., Nikola Jovic, and Kaspars Jakušionis on the roster. At 23 years old, Kuminga is a younger alternative to Wiggins who has the potential to become a long-term contributor for the franchise. With averages of 12.1 points, 5.9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 0.4 steals, and 0.3 blocks per game on 45.4% shooting and 32.1% shooting from three this season, his two-way game adds versatility and athleticism to the Warriors lineup. Plus, under the guidance of Erik Spoelstra, his game could reach heights we never thought possible. With multiple teams in pursuit, the Warriors will have to outbid their competitors for Wiggins. Still, they might just have enough assets to pull off a trade that could salvage their season. By offering Kuminga in the deal, they could address two major problems in one fell swoop. Wiggins was a favorite of Kerr's and the perfect fit on the wing alongside Stephen Curry. Without Butler, the Warriors need more reinforcements at small forward, and there are few others they trust more than Wiggins, a guy who'd bring championship experience and a balanced skill set to the roster. Whether it's Wiggins or someone else, Golden State is expected to be active ahead of the deadline. As Stephen Curry continues to play elite basketball, the pressure is mounting to get something done with what limited assets the Warriors have. Wiggins could be the perfect solution for them, depending on how much the Heat value his game.